Gumbo to Jimba, Tam Chimba, and Babo, so no, you do the music lot of the law. Tapato Jada, giving his holy Roger, George, George Chula, some the law, Tornado, Lapatala, Rabde. Yangan by on the Yangan to Lion, some law, to J. Papa Mila, Jagamba. Pamata Bajawan Rumbo, Gajulabana Maso, the woman should change your Poloni out of those Hajago. Razan Chuka goes to the bill, so we Lomana Maso, and the Mo, Kadachuyan, the Barto, long, Digi, Shito Juga. Requio de Gilamajo, Toronto, Jolo, so on the Salon Soma Pacheco, or the Mommy Johnson, the Surgeon John. Sanga Zaminium, Tasune, Tony, Meme. Fligent by Sasam Donga, Jenda Chudin, not so me point of IG, or so, and Jane, don't know the Danchina. Tamba Chudin, the 네, 같은 주로 넘발랑 동탕보 뭐랑 토데 로바스 드리티 레이테 조슨 바레지 얘나 디카미트니 ndana 신이게 되죠요 말에 이거 말 보자 감이 귤레지 밤마이 대라 삼신데 시랍랑 떨도바 당 이제 잼바 사쇼니 라운다운 노라레지 디 뭐부가 감들 랍더 선도 그봐 네 당보 오소 되니 시랍랑 떨도바디 랑 난기 생기 내록대 통을 슬랑 있으면야 그리 세 나와다 난게 생이 있으면 말을 사동송 욕용도 요래 내가 시에들이 오 배심 오 추탑된 남카다우요 되더니 로 심스러울 쇼선 때니 대선 나오 노사 대사 유송데 이는데 레더 불가블라데 되니 로도 대선 마게는 야래 상근대로 뭐 종지지니 레통 불가블라 딱히 뭐 마땅네 야래서 되게 아예
So yesterday, we covered the first of the three words. It was introducing directly into the face of Rigpa in itself. And so we've completed this explanation, or almost completed, since there's a little bit more here that is written, that is explained. And explaining basically that when the wisdom reached to its fullness, that is when we practice, we need to bring together this aspect of the Rigpa and our mind, realizing that they are indivisible, that the Rigpa is the very nature of our mind, and in that realizing, seeing the indivisibility of the empty essence and of the cognizant nature. And so this is the the way that we should be practicing. So not making any distinction and not distinguishing between our mind that would be kind of observing the Rigpa, or being like the subject in a way, and then the Rigpa, or the view being the object. That would be mistaken to practice in this way, to distinguish between the mind that is aware and what it is aware of. Even though as beginners, so it is very much a mistake that a pitfall that we can fall into, and having the impression that we are kind of aware of something, that there is this Rigpa we are aware of is kind of something external to us. And this is very much possible, and that happens. But basically, the advice for beginners, therefore, is to really not to think too much about it, not to have too much doubts, and to think too much about that, but more rest in the confidence, having the confidence that this is the view, and not try to investigate and check too much about this.
Don't got it. Marmy, you let it by my yin, start the open my need tampon the Marmy, you let it by my age. Oh, Tangi Zopachi Betawazi, Tanga train top song, some the Bayongore. They married. Rang is heavy, Nelo. Rang more pointed. Maybe you let you, but Mary, you are it. You part it, telling nuisance for it. Oh, the rank is heavy nail over the head. Ye married, ye the start over my day. Ye sapagator moshi over my head. In the body, Sargo your head.
So the text was saying that since the natural inherent wisdom is introduced as something natural and inherent in you, it is neither to be sought out elsewhere, nor is it something that you did not have before, and but is just revealing explicitly its true state. So it's not something that you did not have before and that now arises newly in your mind. So it is important to realize also that it's not something that when we're introduced to the Rigpa, to the nature of our mind, at that time we're not acquiring something new. It's not like we didn't have it before and then from today now I have it. It's just realizing that this Rigpa that always been present within us, always says natural, inherent within us, then is now revealed to us. Now we're able to see it, but it's not something that we gain anew.
Trindina Labda Shiba, Labda Shiba, took on the Labda Sando song. Labda Shiba de Tajiba Teleson. Tajiba Kaina, oh, Ransom Saji the Tacho, the Pelon Sakita Dina, oh, Rangsim the Garang Saji is it. Saji Yin a maze, don't say you are married. Terang Sam Nelo Toadi. 랑심 들어랑 상기고 요래 오 타지지 봐 랑심지 상기를 다 주고 요래 오 마음 통들마도 통나들이 랑심 비근의 상기이지
and so there is this also today we'll talk a little bit about this aspect of the Ladawa, very very much going beyond, or to have this kind of to realize basically that this Rigpa that we've been introduced to, the very nature of our mind is also the very nature of everything. There's not like a distinction between us on the one side and the nature of the mind or the Rigpa on the other side, but to realize that this is the nature of all the Buddhas, and that always been the nature of all the Buddhas, and so to very much realize that, and so that is through the practice. So again and again come to develop that confidence that actually the very nature of our mind that we've been introduced to is also the very nature of all the Buddhas.
베르나다다 사제에서 타 교반들라 도바타서 망보예래 롱다를 빨았더니 오 선도 사제 이미 맨바 망고 듣고 요래 오 사제인의 저 사제 용기 가리고다 저네 갖고 망보자 그러가 얘네는 대박이었어 샘디식 용부로가 용으로 저 사제 쪽지가 타지 차례 당부 무슨 생분 내로 그래서 뭐 프로그램이 대랑 옷이 봐서 상기 용지 가려야 되네 대고 희나 남도 당 유모면 잡아서 이제 띵하나 따왕강 쪽나 상도요래 상송했더니 샘들식이 뭐 라스때 남지 남카다 남케가 잡대 내로 하고 상제나 남도 봐 상수나 이 생포는 기보 차도 상제 될 그적적 적상제 다만 챙기는 상제 무슨 윤디 여서
And so here we say that the nature of our mind is the Buddha, and so realizing that actually our true nature is this enlightened nature of a Buddha. But when we say that, we're not kind of bringing some kind of discussion about it, or some kind of more kind of reflecting and try to bring in those details and trying to see how we are Buddha. Or this is not the point here. These kind of discussions of what the Buddha is and the qualities of the Buddha are foregone, like came before. We've discussed that. But now what happens is that this Buddha nature, this Tathagata Garbha, this nature of Rigpa, the nature of the mind within ourselves, so we are introduced to that directly. And so this, when we're introduced, when we're recognizing the very nature of our mind, then realizing the very nature of everything, how things are in their actuality, then at that time, then we are the Buddha. There is no doubt. This is this introduction. When this direct introduction takes place, then all those Buddha qualities, all those qualities of the Buddha that are present inherently within us manifest. Why is it so? Why are we saying this? And just to explain what happens is that when we recognize that, when we recognize this the nature of the mind, then all the destructive emotions, all the thoughts and so on are all eliminated. They are not present anymore. They are not there. When we realize, when we are in the state of Rigpa, when we recognize the nature of our mind, then all those destructive emotions and so on are not there. They do not have this influence. The only thing that is there is the self-awareness of Rigpa, fresh and pure. This actually. Which realizes the very nature of things, which is the very nature of things, the very way things are. And so at that time, there is no such thing as concepts or ideas, destructive emotions. All those are not present within the expanse of Rigpa. And so that is why it is said that we reach the Buddha in one instant, enlightened in one instant, it is said. So that is. And because of this, because all those qualities of the Buddha, all those enlightened qualities that are present within us, then manifest in actuality that instant.
rikpa thola yana nato nipa sangsung diri rikpa nangpa tawi sato nangpa tawi je zi da sanji re zi ta chu sung suna diri takwara diri nidingi lo yo mara diri sanji ichi je kadiri tegarang gom diri diri di medo ga saung nyo tawa re zi diri medo ga saung tawa di dirchik jingbu nukwa rikdukla chab yo wari diri na ngaso Melu Rinpoche de Tommy, da Yanzalona, Medo, New Davaji, Jedri, New Davani, New Hotel Medo, you teach Chatang Yungore.
And so, when we recognize, when we're introduced to the nature of mind, so for all the people, all the individuals who recognize this nature of mind, so what happens is that all the concepts just are eliminated. All the thoughts, discursive thoughts, are eliminated, and so we rest in this view, which is like space, which is this this openness of the expanse of space. But then at the same time, it is the nature of the Buddha. So we have that kind of confidence also when we practice. So that is that it's not like two different things, but before we've kind of investigated, we've thought about it, and we know that this openness of the state of Rigpa is actually the Buddha, the nature of the Buddha. And so that what we do when we're practicing is that we rest in that confidence and not separating the two and making a distinction between that kind of openness on the one hand and then the Buddhas on the other hand, but really realizing that this openness of the state of Rigpa is very much the Buddha. And that is because, as was said before, so it is the example of the flower and of the seed. That is, the seed of the Buddha nature is present within all sentient beings. All the sentient beings of the 6 realms of existence have this. And once they've obtained a precious human birth, that is a birth that allow the student to follow the path, to really receive the Dharma and practice it. So it is like a flower. So this precious body that enable us to practice the Dharma is like the flower, and the flower is contained within the seed. You know, in the seed, there all this potentiality for the flower. And so likewise, in all sentient beings, so these qualities of the Buddha are present within all those sentient beings of the 6 realms of existence.
샤소 토마 니테 샤고 가면 테 니마 레드 케링게 요에데 테 케리나 무슨 르파 네로 소마 토마데 사지 레드 케리나 니마 샤소 찬다 소마 케링고나 테 니마 르바 어때 케리나 테 르파데 따라 사지 레드 노네 티다 랑 르파데 사지 인데 타 추고 요레 테 타 추르더니 곰도 따왕 보는 곰병 앙 종이 요래 따바르기 지마지나 더니 곰 잘도지고 말봐 니
So there was the first example, so the example of the flower and a sprout, a seed. And the second example is there's an example with the sun also. So when the sun is rising, so it helps so all the plants, flowers to grow and the ice to melt and so on. So this one sun, when it rises, so enable all those flowers and so on to grow and develop. And so what happens in the practice also is that we need to just as when the sun is rising in the east, so we recognize it as the sun. There's this kind of decision. It's clear, this is the sun, and this is the sun that's going to bring all those, benefit to the world. And likewise, so we need to have when we recognize the nature of mind, we need to have this clear decision that this is also the Buddha, that this is those. All those enlightened qualities are there present within that it is not different from the Buddha, that the nature of our mind that we're recognizing right now is not different than the Buddha. And so this is something so we need to have, first kind of checked and decided upon. There need to be that kind of decision on this kind of clarity and decision that this is the Buddha. While we're practicing, and then so within that space, then now we practice, we maintain the continuity of the practice, and then thanks to that, so this is also with that we be able to first so recognize the view, and then maintain that through the meditation, and because without the recognition of the view, then there can't be the meditation.
Tene gompa nyamse linso je pa la. Tene tagom chichu de sono mato gongu. Gondang something shimji nelo mapki pa gondang lubje kim gomba ni shimji de ngambya chu junje gompa ne tserje gone rāpa yūma che pādāṁ. Nyamjā gōnda sēnā tōpa rōngda chūpa tīni. Chūnyi sēpa tī yāng tātā lē tāmbō pa tī sō dūme yīwa sō chī. Shī tē yāng sō rāng nā sō. Nī lā tā tāwā tī ngō chūna tī gōmpa ngāng tī chū jū jū chū jū che yā me wā tī tā gōng gō rē sī. Tāwā ngō chūpa tī gōmpa ngāng chōng gō rē sī. 따곰 치추도 손을 쏘는데 직찰봐 그래서나 기왕 하마는 거 소사야니 가사였나 다다 끼찍찍라 되네 직찰봐 나와야 또 그거래 되면 바탐지 되네 공고를 해서
So now the second point, which is decide upon one thing and one thing only. Now, to give a more detailed explanation of how to take the practice of meditation to heart, it says that we must only meditate by bringing together the view and meditation. When we make distinctions between meditation and samadhi, we distinguish between the uncontrived meditation and the natural state and the contrived meditations fabricated by the mind. And so in a natural state of rest, all the time in any situation, let your meditation be like the continuous flow of a river. So for the first point, so the second point, so the decide upon one thing and one thing only. So we'll be explaining the aspect of the meditation. And the basically what it says is that once we've been introduced to the nature of our mind, then there's nothing to fabricate, no kind of movement in the mind to create. The only thing to do is to meditate. The only thing that we have to do is to maintain the continuity of this recognition and not to bring in any sort of fabrication. And it is only those who have there's people who are able to bring together the view and the meditation instantaneously. But then that is for those, it says, of the so-called instantaneous realizer, those people who are able to realize instantaneously the view of the Dzogpa Khenpo and to actualize it. And those people are people who've in their past lives, accumulated a great deal of merit and wisdom, and as a result, in this life, so are able to recognize and maintain that immediately. But for all the others, then it is necessary then to cultivate that through the meditation.
Yeah. Gomta something shimji nelo ma kyupa gomta lubze kyum gomji shimji lubze kyum gom jimandi aga ngaso gowa gatuni o khode chutamje ngune de zegaramji metawa tombani re sam loge te gowa re te lubze gomta tombani re sa te hako gowa ni gong nyamyong de la nelo ma bi gong de la rang sem ge nelo tong ne ba ka sa ni tong ma ni re mari sambe yin sam lo ta ma yin sam lo is tra wa is me ga gang sam ge yo ma re ni ba tham che da tra wa ngong ge nelo ma bi se bu nelo de la ta so de ta ma bi gong ni ba tham che da tra wa yo yo re lu de gong de ta ta
So basically, all except for those who are those kind of instantaneous or sudden realizers, then all the others need to cultivate the meditation. And when we talk about the meditation, so says that when we make distinctions between meditation and samadhis, we distinguish between the contrived meditation on the natural state and contrived meditations fabricated by the mind. For example, when we when we investigate into the nature of things, so we come to see that all phenomena actually arises due to causes and conditions. They are all compounded phenomena, meaning that they all arise due to causes and conditions. And so because of that, therefore, their nature is emptiness. They are not a solid, really existent there as we think they are, but actually they are just the result of the transitory result of causes and condition. And so in that sense, they are emptiness. But this is just an understanding. In Tibetan, the term is koa, that is just an understanding. It is different from the actual meditation. In the when meditating, so there's no destructive emotions. The destructive emotions are not there whenever we are practicing, and it's just resting in the very nature of things, and that is the very nature of the mind. And so, in that, when we are practicing in this way, it is important not to bring to mind, a kind of question: is this emptiness? No, emptiness is a little bit more like that, or that kind of thought, that kind of kind of way of investigating or reflecting. This is we shouldn't do this at the time of the meditation. And when we are meditating, we should just leave the mind as it is and do not bring any kind of dualistic thought of that nature. Is it emptiness? Is it not emptiness? But just leave the mind, as it says, uncontrived. So this is without any kind of fabrication, without any kind of grasping, even the most subtle one. When resting in the state of Rigpa, when maintaining the continuity of Rigpa in the meditation, then there's no fabrication whatsoever. There's not even the slightest kind of grasping. So this is the difference there between the kind of it says the meditation fabricated by the mind and the meditation that is uncontrived on the natural state.
그냥 다 가르치 모델 내 당보 버티서 너무 이해해서 살지 희생 냠서 라나 대당 손좀 배송 대당 강리다가 네가 rangi shenega tawa tani sem necha 요 양 징을이 상통거 따와 히바 싸우대 살차 쪼고 제거리 살차 쪼고 제나 아니 살차를 빠대 소 옛날에 그 유무 받아 나도 니보는 저거요래 내차 쪼고 제나 그냥 내차 쪼고 제서 될라 내사 힘바이거든 와 힘바 힘에 듣고요래 계속 그요래 너네 전에 상통 쏘고 제거래서 상통
So it says that as beginners we need to practice in the nature of the clear light of the primordial ground, and that is, so we need to bring more emphasis on the aspect of vipassana, that is the aspect of the clarity aspect in the natures of the mind. So there is an aspect of there's a remaining aspect in that kind of in the meditation of the nature of mind. And then there's an aspect of clarity. And as beginners, so it is important to focus more on the aspect of clarity, to bring out more that aspect of clarity. Because in the aspect of remaining aspect, then there is, if we focus more on this, then there'll be some kind of subtle kind of grasping that will come in. And so that's why it is important to focus more on the clarity aspect.
공기 소음성소 성기들 동친 보여래 강이 다당 소 고메 또 듣고요 말이 변나 준이세버 살아 남상 랩듣고요 말이 옛날양 르빠 주마 체나 고미가 살아 레발 하나 손통 연구요 그래서 오 때때 그 배에서는 받아요 오 르빠 주마 체바 좀도 르빠 가디요는 주 고미가 받아요 그래서 내가 가르치더니 좀 넘도다 유고 참아 다로요리 sem 죽고요 말이 근데 주 고미도 손바 줄이 용지 여러 하세
And it says also that we need to practice. So even as beginners, so it is important to practice in the same way that when the Rigpa comes to its fullness, when the Rigpa comes to full maturity, and there is this complete realization. And so it is said we need to practice in a similar way, and this is very significant. This is quite important because when we practice, so it is important that even though maybe at the time now as beginners, so it is not, it doesn't manifest in the way that it manifests at the full realization, and when we reach the full realization, yet it has all those qualities, and even though so there might be some slight, obscurations due to thoughts and so on, yet in its nature, the Rigpa is the same. There's no distinction, and there's no difference between, and so therefore, and in that state of Rigpa, there is not the slightest obscurations, there is not the slightest thought, there is not the slightest destructive emotions, and so we have that. And so it is important when we practice to practice in a similar way, that is with that kind of confidence that we're able to maintain that continuity, that continuity of the Rigpa is there all the time, and so that confidence is important. And so this is what is meant here by practicing in a similar way, similar to the full maturity of the Rigpa.
옛날 르파스 아차가 윤데 뒤당 내갑 탐지에도 요배 nemtola garab me ba so nemtola garab me ba tena Nepa madab, Java maga, Yampa madabs. Then Chiri, the name for Garab Dorje. Kang, you know, oh, Tatanga Nedo, pitch upon the got it, Lego, so young the Bible, that never trip. Then the two God, they are king about Ransa, Napo, Yago is. Nepa madab, Java maga, oh. Tingani gongani nato 강천은 땅한 쳐도도 그냥 가고 말이지. 샤와한테 무생지는 그래도 강천한테 하고 지금 쭉 같이 천나 쳐줘요. 그래서 그 럭바지 나또 그지도 팔 만장나. 그 메롱도 있시지. 별로 메롱을 중심 찾는 메롱이 지도요 말이야. 대다더니 내 밤마다 좋아마가 너는 얼마나 속중데 저 돌더니 싫어랑 속 마셔봐 뛰는 도요래. 근데 가르쳐도 저도매 매망 그 가르쳐나 매망 참아야랑 생각로나 저도매 대연 봐요 뭐.
So it says, without cultivating stillness or suppressing the movement of thought, simply maintain the recognition that when stillness occurs, it is the Dharmakaya's own face, and when movement arises, it is the inherent power of wisdom. So it says, without cultivating stillness or suppressing the movement of thoughts. So basically it means that we shouldn't cultivate the stillness. At the same time, we should not block any movement of thoughts, or we shouldn't try to cultivate any kind of evenness or equality. To explain, that means that when we rest in the Rigpa, so we may have some wonderful experience, and because of that, we feel really nice. We just had this great experience of meditation. We just rest, and really managed to maintain, and just feel so happy about that we want to practice even more. Well, that is grasping. And we shouldn't fall into that kind of trap. And so that is just what we need to do, is just to rest in the Rigpa, in the natural clarity of the Rigpa, and just rest in that. Whatever thought arise, then we just need to maintain that view of the Rigpa, maintain the meditation. And that is that whatever arises then needs to be liberated. Whatever thought arises, so without the slightest kind of grasping, we just recognize them for what they are and liberate them. So this is the way to rest in the meditation, to rest in this self-awareness of Rigpa. And it is like the example of the mirror, as you know. In the mirror, everything can reflect in the mirror, but the mirror never gets involved in anything that is reflected. And so this is important also, not to be involved, that there is no kind of discussions or we don't start to comment about the different thoughts that arise and everything. Just leave things as they are. Whenever something arises, just recognize it and let it be liberated. And so just as things naturally arise, they're also naturally liberated. That is the way to rest in the meditation. And so without any kind of grasping, without any kind of commenting or this term in Tibetan Juto it's a little bit like when there's a large group of people, or a group of people, and they start to discuss about what the others are doing all the time and kind of commenting about that, and so this kind of thing we shouldn't have that kind of attitude. Whatever arises, just naturally arise, naturally liberated. So this is the meaning here of when it says without cultivating stillness or suppressing the movement of thoughts.
Garab Nina Chuku Rango and Tona Yishijang, Azar the Jome Nas, ini zawa nani tenen chuam ne jang rong sem nam to ge zar kum jong ge dimba cho cha so mi mong dong ge dimba jidok so tang lam din so ba rom yong gang ji jang nam to de da ge 차리 랑이 균이 되시네 죽고 요랑도 저게 나스 내가 죽고 랑오든 오 내가 죽고 랑오래 죽고 랑게 준대 나도 답제다 더 선나가 더 죽고 랑오래 뒤에는 나도 초와대서 참하고서나 이 다리를 빠데 매다와나 나도 tamke 무슨 강기나 럭방강 설마서나 내가 무슨 참아 매는 저도 요래 니모 이실인 줄서 그래서 이 시기랑 자르선 촌에 시기랑 자르도 좀 해서 그때는 남도 강결이 되나 오 음종거 돼봐 노차 해당 등하게 돼봐 기도 길차 네 차당이는 누구요래 등하나 당겨요래 등을했더니 해당지요래 대화했더니 노차지요래 너는 차당거 똑바로 누구요래 차당거 똑바 쇼키오 차당거 똑바 쇼키고 충충들이도래 충충들 나대서 내용은 여보도 좀 담지요 다당아 세배 공역 보이고도 선제 봐줘 양대도 마음을 되게 이제 봐 충충들 양 차당거 똑바 그러나 대통령 강진 하고고 그래 서나 라사를 잡고 아마도 대가고선 로데 양님이요 말이에요 까고로 로지나 가봐용 거요래 도르디나 가야 만지지 그러고랑 속소리 대장을 들이 니께자 막고서 고요 말이에요 그러고랑 대양 만지 셈싸고티 좋은지 대장을 니께자 고요 말이에요 진짜
So the text says, without cultivating stillness or suppressing the movement of thought, simply maintain the recognition that when stillness occurs, it is the Dharmakaya's own face, and when movement arises, it is the inherent power of wisdom. And so the root text says, then whether in a state of movement or stillness. And so from the energy of mind's thinking come negative emotions like anger and attachment that constitute the truth of the origin of suffering, as well as feelings like happiness and sorrow, which constitute the truth of suffering itself. So what it means is that when we rest, so in the state of Rigpa, then we recognize that it says in the text, the Dharmakaya's own face. So it says simply maintain the recognition that when stillness occurs, so when you stay, in that state of stillness, when you remain in the state of Rigpa, then it is the Dharmakaya's own face. Basically, what it means is that realize, we rest in the state of the Rigpa, recognizing the Rigpa, this nature of mind, which is like space-like nature of mind. And also, so to give an example, it is like the example of the fire that was given before, where Rigpa is like the fire, and all the thoughts, the namtok, are like the firewood, and so the firewood eventually becomes fire. It is burned by the fire and becomes fire, and so all those thoughts also become the primordial wisdom of the Rigpa. So it says when movement arises, it is the inherent power of wisdom. It becomes the wisdom in this way, and so. So the text continues, from the energy of mind's thinking come negative emotions like anger and attachment, as well as feelings like happiness and sorrow. And so basically all the thoughts, thoughts of so that relate to the first of the Four Noble Truth, the truth of suffering. So all those thoughts of suffering, as well as thoughts of happiness and so on, all the thoughts that related to the second noble truth, the truth of the origin of suffering, are related to the destructive emotions, to the karma. Then all those influences then lead to the to have attachment and aversion. And that is, whenever there is a suffering, whenever we experience suffering, then there is aversion that arises. Or when there is happiness, then we tend to have attachment for this. And so all those also are burnt in the fire of the wisdom of the Rigpa. Whenever they arise, all those are realized to be the inherent power of the wisdom of Rigpa. And so all those thoughts, that means, as we said, thoughts of desire and aversion, or attachment and aversion, and that is on a more grosser level, there are attachment and aversion, but on a more subtle level, there are hope and fear. On that we have, always in a mind those little thoughts, those of hope and fear. So that is more on the subtle level. But then when those little subtle thoughts of hope and fear then start to have some momentum and becomes bigger, then they become attachment or aversion. And so whenever those arise, then we need to know them, to recognize them for what they are, and just to realize that they are just the self-manifestation of the Rigpa, the inherent power of the wisdom. So, as it says, whatever experience arise, if you can realize that the true nature of these thoughts and emotion is the very nature of reality, there will be just the flow of Dhammakaya. So the point here is that whenever those thoughts of desire and attachment, attachment and aversion, thoughts of hope and fear arise, then to recognize them, to realize that they are just the self-manifestation, the inherent power, the display of the nature of the mind, and that therefore they don't need to be suppressed. You don't need to suppress those, but just realize what they are. And so, to explain in brief, so here the words of the text, just to put it essentially, it says that we shouldn't grasp at anything, and but just rest in the clarity of the Rigpa.
Trump chasa jidam dok. Tetar mazi jer Lerab Dorje nelok. Tawe no chu jang gombe ngang man chong war. Tagom ji la ma dina chum tamar de chone. Nam to ran ju be khowar ching ching. Chutang ju so song tamar bata chemi ban jerves. Dan di Lerab Dorje nelok. Lo tam che da tra. Oh. 강이 이름 제바 강이 로 탐체다 차가 Lerab Dorje 내려 저 심장마 상장 변이 추장만 강경 내가 대치 싸마르 저는 때서 심는 저 때다 정해야 돼 심대 심내로 많이 봐 그래 될비잖아 오 강경만 뒤에서 심 싸워 돼 무슨은 틱틱 들 장이지네 Lerab Dorje 따와서 남도가 그게 말해 봐. 한자박하면 마요 봐. Lerab Dorje 따와서. 대원 추나양 주 연대대 망도 마시라. 다금들 라디지. 고음니 남도다 뉴모마 탐지 딩앙을 식마 탐나. 다 라마디나지. 식마 탐나. 주 곰시바 상이 시가 요서는 천점 타마르데 좋네. 남 또 란주베 호간청 맞지. 네 같이 주 가래. 남도 란주 받에 하고 그래. 남도 란주 받에 가래래. 란주 받 많이 받 가래. 란주 받 가래. 되지 가가라. 진족이 침보래. 남도 뉴몽 란주 받이 받에. 니 몸에 봐. 지시 자와리 매버 가래. 남도 뉴몽 지 받에. 남도 란주 받. 진시 요법값을 남도 집어서 라주바 말해. 그래서 진시 싸워 요법값을 남도 더 뉴바 관계래요. 매 요법값이 벌써 다 책으로 봐. 매 법값이 탑콩는 매매나 벌써 뭐 야나들이 매 요말 봐. 그때 남도 라주바. 진시 매법값을 남도 라주바. 근데 이번 모시고 해. 잊지 말해. 라주바 이만이 그 치발. 망생서 오유에다가 남도 뭐 강기나 하고 너 봐요 말이에요. 그냥 누구요 말이에요. 가영디는 또 있지라 다 센터 접도로 남도랑 주바. 근데 탐말 바로 제요 말이에요.
Furthermore, generally speaking, even though you may have recognized the view of the natural state beyond the mind, if you do not sustain it in meditation, that means if you do not resolve through transcending, that is this ladawa that we mentioned earlier, so if you do not resolve through transcending in terms of the view and meditation, and you slip into the ordinary proliferation of delusion, the same old patterns of thought will bind you to samsara. As a result, Dharma and you become divorced and you end up no different from an ordinary person. That is why you must never be apart from the supreme state of resting naturally in non-meditation. And why the root text says, all the time, in any situation. So even if we have recognized the view, then it is important to rest in that natural state that is beyond the ordinary mind. It says beyond the ordinary mind, beyond all kind of thoughts, beyond all the ordinary thoughts that we can have, all the ordinary aspects of mind, all those, beyond all of those, then we remain without giving in to the ordinary mind, and so that is. In that state, then we need to rest, to meditate. But if we are not able to rest in that state, to maintain the continuity of that recognition of the mind, that is of this pure mind that is beyond all thoughts, all ordinary thoughts, and that is, it's a little bit like the water also. If you have water, if there is just a little bit of dust in it, then it's not pure water. Pure water is free of any kind of dust or anything. It's totally pure water. And so the nature of the mind is the same, in this totally pure mind. If there's just a little bit of thoughts, a little bit of kind of nam talk or of the ordinary mind, then it is not the pure mind of Ripa, the natural state that is utterly beyond the mind. And so, and in that case, then the mind is not so clear. And so it is important to have that, to rest in that state that is beyond the ordinary thoughts. And so to explain, that means that beyond the concepts, the thoughts, beyond the grasping, without giving in to any sort of grasping whatsoever. And so, but then if we are not able to do this, then it says, if you slip into the ordinary proliferation of delusion, then the same old patterns of thought will bind you to samsara. So that is, if we are not able to maintain that recognition, then we slip into the ordinary kind of thoughts that we have, the kind of patterns that we usually have, and there's an important term here in the Tibetan, says the Namtok Ranggyupa, which when it says the same old patterns of thoughts, the patterns of thoughts, that means the thoughts in themselves, those Namtok in themselves, and because there's a distinction to make here, which is very important, between those thoughts in themselves and just thoughts. And that is, or Namtok in themselves, Namtok Ranggyupa, and just Namtok. And because the thoughts in themselves is like when you don't recognize the Rigpa, when you just give in to thoughts. If you just, kind of a bit... if you're in the state of Rigpa, when you're practicing, then thoughts arise, but you recognize them immediately for what they are and see that they're just empty and don't, start grasping at them. And so there is just thoughts. It's not the thoughts in themselves. But what happens is, if you're a bit distracted, you're not, paying much attention, just sitting there like that, then, a thought comes and then you give in to the thought, you start grasping at it, and so this is the thought in itself. Then you have, this Namtok becomes something quite solid there. So this is the distinction that is made that is important. That is, when staying in the state of the Rigpa, when staying in the meditation, so whenever something arises, just a Namtok, just a thought, it just arises. But when we don't rest in the meditation, when we don't pay attention, there's not this mindfulness, this awareness that is there, then those thoughts, then we start grasping at them. They become, something real for us. And so this is the Namtok in themselves, the Namtok Ranggyupa, or like the thought in themselves. And so it is important to recognize that whenever a thought arises, it is important to recognize it and not to kind of solidify it and fall into this trap of the habitual patterns of those thoughts, those solid thoughts. And because otherwise, then we won't be, it says, different from an ordinary person. Ordinary people, this is the way that as ordinary people we relate to things. And so it is important to have that recognition, to recognize, because also this is what binds us to samsara. Because of those thoughts, because of solidifying those thoughts, not recognizing that they are just those just thoughts, but just taking them for something more real, like the what we call those thoughts in themselves. Then because of that, then we accumulate the causes for staying in the samsara, and it's just like an ordinary person.
Tina Magomba Gomba Ramja Chimota Namyang Mandrava Gubina Titan Nekap Tamche the song. The Magomba Gomba Ramja Chimbo. The Rapa Rangus him delete. The Rang Mo Shili Titan Dejamato Kaya Gongo Yomare. Chukare Gongo, we kicked on Gongo me. Rapa told native. The Titan de Gores. Titan to him. Then Magomba Gomba Chimbo. Namyam Raja Goose. To the neck up Tamchet. To the neck up Tamchet. Till on the den and the Kayore, the Rapatola.
So that is why you must never be apart from the supreme state of resting naturally in non-meditation. And so that is just resting in the state of Rigpa, in the self-awareness, the naked self-awareness of Rigpa. This is the meditation, just resting in that state of the nature of mind. And that in that there is nothing to meditate upon. It just, and if you're asked, what are you meditating upon? You just say, I don't. There's nothing I'm resting upon. Just resting in the natural state of Rigpa. That is And then so that's why the text says you must never be apart from this supreme state of resting naturally, and which is a non-meditation. And it says all the time and in any situation. So if you're able to do that, just to rest in that state of Rigpa without meditating upon anything, then that would qualify. That's good.
Thank you.
And I forgot the example, which is again of the fire and the firewood. And so, if the Rigpa is good, if you're able to really rest in the state of Rigpa, then the more thoughts, the more Nam-tok arises, then the stronger the Rigpa becomes, because the Rigpa is like the fire, and the thoughts are like the firewood. And so, when you have a good fire, the more wood you put into that, then the fire just gets bigger and bigger. But then, if in your stove there's no fire and you keep on putting wood in it, at some point it's just going to be stuck. It's not going to work. It's not going to burn it. So that's the example. It shows that it is through the Rigpa then that we liberate all those Nam-tok that arises.
대달 님초소 간거체양 뉴몽바타 남부 타디바리리 니보 타디바리리들아 마이제 남도타 뉴몽 강지장 니보 직축 근들 나오데바 따와 ጭ뿌 문진베 저조르지 니 인들란다와치 뭐시 죽고 무서워라 좀자발 강리 야 르빠찌부터 대열들이 강에 제거 말왜 진짜 제거 말해 그래 주님 봐 동아 독선 별이 몽 동아들 레레를 나요래 대파도 뉴모바 제체자 동요래 뉴모바 제체자 동데 참아 설 놀던 남도래 남도 어찌 빠래 되나 주를 보면은 내나 미가 포직 탑들 보면은 내는 매치몽을 참아지는 거 보고 가는 매는 सक잖아 참아 매는 정도로 요래지 뉴모바를 이보래서 고 말해지 니보 가르리 되나 저도 따당가서 봐 뭐고 반디 된 뭐시나 다 죽어 대래서 뭐시 죽어 무성나지
So, whatever thought or emotion arises, in itself it is no other than the wisdom of Dhammakaya, and the true nature of these thoughts and emotions is the actual clear light of the ground of Dhammakaya. Sorry, I just jumped one paragraph. So it says, therefore, whether the mind is still active or whatever, it is not a question of overcoming each individual negative emotion and thought with its own separate remedy. Instead, the sole remedy for whatever thought or emotion may occur, the one remedy for all, is the recognition of that view which was introduced before, and that alone. So it's the key point of one liberates all. And so that's why the root text says, recognize the Dhammakaya you recognized before. So as we say, we just rest in the state of Rigpa, and in that there is nothing to do. There's not, we do not do anything, we do not meditate on anything. Yet at the same time, all the negative emotions, all the destructive emotions and thoughts are liberated. And because, so in that meditation, as it says in the text, it's not a question of, overcoming each individual negative emotion, destructive emotion, or thought. Because if you take the destructive emotions, there's 5, we talk about the 5 poisons. But then there's also, if you divide them more, if you go more into detail, there are 84,000 different type of destructive emotions. And so here we are not going to apply a remedy, an antidote to each one individually. Because basically what they are, they're all just namtok, just thoughts, And so therefore, while resting in the state of Rigpa, while maintaining the continuity of the recognition of the Rigpa, then all those are liberated. So it is not necessary to apply an individual antidote for each of them, because we have the single antidote that is able to overcome them all. The key point of one liberates all, as it's called, or the one remedy for all. And that is, so what is this antidote? Again, this is the Rigpa, when resting in the state of Rigpa, so that liberates all the different types of destructive emotions and thoughts.
대양 남도탄 유몽 강지장 대니 축구 이실에 로셔 많이 제 짤람 로봇 남도 대다게 랑이 축구 이제요 살 무임베 대고시나 이제 내면서 시사라서 디 남도단 유모 박행지 샘 코랑지 빼는 너무 치모도이나 너무 코랑의 야가 로마 망보 찌요래 너무 찍리 찌는 거요래 디 이제 계속 샘 코랑을 하면 초당 랍다위시나 남도도 샘이 카카 말이지 샘을 안다르티 샘코를 안다르지 대고 맛이 발라더니 콜바리스 무시소나 그거가 짧다 버서야지 이제 내면서 이제 내면서 라고 샘데 왜 살아 샘그 남지 얘를 우사와이나 샘 대리 샤로만 남도 대탐지 샘그 남지를 마대 빠데 근데 잠소나 잠시 랍데 잠소 호랑데 말아래 배 잠소 랍다서 대하고 저다서 파지게 오 남도도 카카리 뉴가 랍상 로버베드 빠데 로버베드 방무디 잠시 랍데 로버베드 로버는 무엇이 손으로 강제요 말하지. 무엇이 되는 줄 봐줘. 들이 차공을 차. 들이 내서 그래. 이제 내면서 저 사람 그 사람이 이제 내면서 기사.
So whatever thought or emotion arises, in itself it is no other than the wisdom of Dharmakaya. And the true nature of these thoughts and emotions is the actual clear light of the ground of Dharmakaya. So when you recognize this, that is what is known as the mother clear light present as the ground. And to recognize your own nature in that view of the clear light of self-knowing Rigpa, introduced earlier by the Master, is what is known as the path clear light of practice. So, when the thought arise, all those thoughts or namtok arise, then they're just actually not different from the nature of the Dhammakaya, from the nature of the mind. They are just the display or the dynamic energy of the mind, of the nature of mind. And the example is of if you have a large tree, the large trunk, and on one trunk then you have so many branches and leaves that grow of this one single trunk. So it's the same also. Out of the nature of mind, then all those thoughts and namtok arise. And the other example that is often given also is of the ocean and the waves. The waves are not different from the ocean. And if we're able to recognize that the just as the waves are not different from the ocean, and all the thoughts are just the manifestation, the dynamic display of the nature of mind, in that they are not different from the nature of mind, then if we're able to, if we are not able to recognize that, then to recognize their nature, and then that is samsara. But if we're able to recognize that, then that is then the Dhammakaya becomes clear. This is realizing seeing the face of the Dhammakaya, and so that because the ground is this, we have this ground of clear light. It says the clear light of the ground of Dhammakaya. So this clear light is our ground present in dwelling, and all those thoughts, all those phenomena manifest out of this, the nature of the mind, out of this ground of clear light, and they are not different from it in the same way that all the waves arise from the ocean. All the waves are produced from the ocean, but they are never separate from the ocean. But then the moment that we make it something different, when like some destructive emotion arises and then we make it something different, consider that it is different from our mind, from the nature of our mind, then at that moment there's a grasping, and then all the kind of all the other destructive emotions arises, the aversion, the attachment, and all that start to arise. So that is the moment that we just make it different, we identify it, or we kind of single it out, and we do not recognize the nature of all those thoughts, of all those destructive emotions, realizing that they are not different from this ground of clear light, the nature of our mind. And so, like in the example of the waves and the ocean, this is an example that comes from Milarepa.
Yet name SARS Teta Sanjiga Sona, District Nimburoy on a chapti, same day, only same day, semi Yeni Sanjija Ramjin base. This same day only the Osaramjin, Negores, Dela, Malame more taper Rarik, Yo, Sar Tawa, Rango Shipani, Yamlin, Lamjers are she said. Teaching gives you a touch. 출랑의 르바 대상지리 뭐들 어디 르바랑 내로 쳤다게 됐다는 것들이 르바랑 내로 싹동 남하다 왜지 사르나지로 우사와지 샘살람이 뽕거들 한거 생고 내로도 남하다고 강은 하상 주미 싹동 속도 줘봐 하고 오 다른 뭐 시선 것들이 냠리 남겨서 이제 내면서 센티 소소리 요래 다른 남이 촉 센티 상계를 좀 못해요. 살 마음 줘 봐지. 이람 요살이 일미도 줄배. 랑을 네팔 살 마음 줘 봐지 세와이나. 만디 살 마음 쪼지 자책.
So when you recognize this, when you recognize the clear light of the ground of Dhammakaya, then that is what is known as the mother clear light present as the ground. And to recognize your own nature in that view of the clear light of self-knowing Rigpa that was introduced earlier by the Master is what is known as the path clear light of practice. And so to recognize this clear light of the ground of Dharmakaya is that is when the Lama introduces to the nature of mind, when the Lama introduces to this indwelling clear light of the ground of Dharmakaya that is present within ourselves, present as the very nature of our mind. Then when we come to realize, thanks to our root teacher, this cognizant empty Rigpa open like the space, this kind of luminous clarity and openness of the nature of mind. When we're able to recognize that, to have a direct experience of this openness, of this clarity, then that is so what we call the mother clear light that is present as the ground. So recognizing that mother clear light present as the ground, thanks to to our root teacher. And so in that, when we recognize that, then we're able to remain, or when we're able to remain in that state of clarity that is beyond any thought, any descriptions. That is the clear light of the ground of Dhammakaya, that is the mother clear light present as the ground. And then to recognize your nature in that view of the clear light of self-knowing Rigpa, so that was introduced by the Master, and is what is known as the path clear light of practice. And the So the mother clear light present as the ground. So is this indwelling, so clear light ground of the Dhammakaya. And when the Lama introduces us, so that is like the sun, or when the clear light. And that is, or today, when we're introduced, and we realize that on that day, when we've been introduced, that we recognize this indwelling clear light of the ground of Dhammakaya. And so, at the moment of the introduction, it's like the mother and the son meeting, where it says to remain in a state where these two, the clear light of the ground and path, are inseparable, is known as the meeting of mother and child clear light. And so, that is the when this indwelling nature of the mind, this clear light ground of the Dhammakaya, is recognized thanks to the introduction by the Master, then it is like the meeting of the mother and son of the two types of so the meeting of the mother and son, meeting of this it's like it's a little bit like the meeting of this and this clear light which is indwelling within us, and then the one that is, and when the Master introduces us, then we are introduced to that very nature. And so it is the example that is used is of the meeting of mother and child.
Garab tang pamlang kayang mazawane ne ja tamba yebe na yumi rikchen ang la yas e kong song ma na to garab de ji ba kong da chi pa he ra kwa chi pu thola ya pa is rāngi sīmbu nēlūm dēla yē yu sār mātā wēchi tēkhāng ngō shī yu mā rī tērā ngō shī rī lām yē yu sār bātā wēchi rāngi rī kwa ngō shī bā dēli yinā dēla tā bē hidā chī yu rī kāng rī dēla mā rī bē dē chī rī tā rī kwa shī bā dē kāng rī tsā mā rī yu rī kāng rī nām shī rī ngō mā shī bā kā rī nām shī 무슨 참아 내 지고 참아 코치요래 사촉 셋다 로스로 사제지 자와 코치요래 단디다 로스는 로아를 너무 성 코치요래 제발 버티게 남시들이지 난 남시는 자와 제발 남시디 남시 광을 철도나 남시 광을 또 들으셔 봐는 줄 예시지 지금 말하리 베테서 남시 만통 이신통세 남시 대시래 샤지 남시도 오시는 이신 내래 샤지 뭐 마시는 남시 그 서로 열드 넘바 잠시 바지 다인 이시고 니 참아 하고 요리 저 이게 뭐 딱 봐 요리스 진정아 때때다 가서 온거 다뭐 마시 바지 이제여서 남시만 통이 신통들 랑 남시도 뭐 남시도 가래도 집아 가래도 사람들이 나파도 많이 차로 다도 많이 싹동 디퍼 남겨서 무시바디 남겨서 받아서 대 당마랑 그 생문은 요리 대 마다버지 소소로 요리지 같이 협을 내시고 특만 뭐 좌는 돼 고소 신고로 와
I just asked Rinpoche to repeat again on the mother and child, because I thought I was not really clear what I was trying to say. So I just asked him to repeat, and he said that I can ask, any time, because it's important that all of you, really understand the teaching, even though he added just now that he doesn't know anything, but, he'll try. So... So basically, there's those this example that is used here of the mother and the child, and so the clear light of the ground of the Dharmakaya that is present within ourselves and we haven't recognized is like the mother clear light present as the ground. So it's like the mother, and so it is because we all have that nature present within ourselves, but we don't recognize it. So at that time, it's called the mother clear light present as the ground. And then, when we recognize it, thanks to the master, when our master introduces us to the nature of mind, then this is what we call the sun clear light. And so this example, then when we're introduced, there's this meeting of the mother and child clear light when there's this recognition that takes place. But another example that is given is by Milarepa, and Milarepa explained that actually this wisdom of Rigpa is present in all of us and is there. For example, the consciousness. We have the consciousness which is able to know, all the different things, although it's in a limited way. But there is, this aspect of cognition there, this clarity there, and so this is the Rigpa. Only we do not recognize it. So we all have it, but we don't recognize it, and it manifests, for example, in the form of the consciousness, and this nature of the mind. So it is what it is. the basis for the Buddhas, or the Buddhas in the omniscience of the Buddha is this nature of the mind. And in the same way also, all the phenomena of samsara, all the cognitions and the sentient beings have within the 6 realms of existence of samsara, they also come from this nature of mind. They are the nature of mind, and they are an expression of the nature of mind. And so, therefore, we have, all of us have that, Milarepa explained, so have that nature within ourselves, and in the form of the consciousness. And so we have that consciousness, we are able to know things, and only we don't recognize it. But now, if we turn inside and look at it, look at that consciousness, we realize, well, this is the nature of mind. And it's just, it's just amazing. Oh, it was there all the time, and we've never recognized it. And so at that time, when just turning inside, we realize that there's this primordial wisdom of the nature of mind that is there, of the Rigpa, that has always been there, indwelling within ourselves. And so, and in that, so there's no need for any further kind of, distinction between this and that, between self and others, which we usually do. But all those thoughts of distinction between self and others, knowing this and that, they all come from also the nature of mind. They are all the expressions of the nature of mind that is present within ourselves. And so Rinpoche said that it's a little bit of a, profound point. But then, so to come back to our ground, so luminosity. So there is the mother. So the example of the mother clear light present as the ground is the so nature of mind that is present within ourselves, but that we do not recognize. And then when the Lama introduces us to the nature of mind and we recognize it, so it is like the mother and child, or it says the meeting of mother and child clear light. And so this is the this important point, and or this example, and the meaning of the example here.
Sir Maman Trubandela, what things of Hinda, you're Muni, Matan Pogan Devandi, Gangi, Ama Jigla Pogi, Pote Amatan Katani, Tini, Samsung, the Rico Dumima Yongore, take Kangi, Namtora and Juba, Rangasender, Dandi, Idi, Chadang Topachi, take Jisundang, Lesa, so they didn't want to do Chamdo, Yore. The Poga Amatan Katar Sumana is. Teni Teren Pogate, Satu Aman de Oh, Namtote Range Second Doctor Certena, Second Doctor Namtoti, Upornzaba, Hicksumne. Teni, oh, Range de Loc Hakos on the Matan Ponchepa in the head. Teni Mata Perchena, put the Dungile, put the Dungile start of your then the Trinity Shirab the Musin Sona, Shirab the Amata red, Nampo the Pogata red. Till Namto Ranjuba Meva. Sempre they look the Dona, didn't hold Dungile talk your red. Don't want a Mata put you, Mary, pay something to the Mata put bits of the Japares. Johnny, Jinshi, but not all some time Chamro, Poga Amar Carton, any Amizato or Mara. Jinshi, you know, Jimmy Shab over not all you, but you know, Amayori, Ame Potent Zagara. Oh, Ame Pota Pojagari, Peter, Donna, Jinshi Mena, Ama Mega Paris.
So there's a significance to the example, why we use the mother and the child example. And it says that it's because when the child is away from her mother, then he experiences a great deal of suffering. It is a very difficult, painful experience for the child to be separated from his mother. And in the same way, so when the the thought, as we said, we kind of solidify the thoughts. Those thoughts in themselves, those namtok rangyupa appear. Then we give some kind of solidity to the thoughts that arise in our mind. Then we find ourselves wandering throughout the 6 realms of existence of samsara and experience a great deal of suffering. And so that is the same. So that is as in the example. But then when we recognize the nature of mind, and then it is like the child that finds his mother again. And so, because otherwise, then we just when all those thoughts arise and we just grasp at them and kind of solidify them, then there's this experience of suffering. We do not recognize the nature of the mind, the nature of the thoughts. But then when we recognize the nature of things, when we recognize the nature of mind, then when all those then all the suffering also is eliminated, and so it's like the child that is freed from the suffering, from the pain of being separated from his mother. And in the same way, when we recognize the nature of our mind, then all those thoughts then lose that kind of solidity we tend to give them, and they are not able to create all this suffering anymore. So that is the significance and the example. And in that, so the mother can be compared to the wisdom, and the namtok, the thoughts, to the child. And once we introduce to the nature of mind, when we recognize, we rest in that recognition, then those thoughts are not the thoughts that are that we solidified, have that kind of identity of themselves, to those thoughts in themselves, but they are just the thought that arise, and we're able to, and they are just liberated in this way. That is, when there is this, when there is the awareness and the mindfulness, then these thoughts are liberated. But when there is no awareness and mindfulness, then we wander in the samsara.
Yenatini tata dila wasa mount one dila kari demba niga tung namasamotana teto hakore kari demba nidina kudo jumbe lava me basi. Oh, donam도 똥만이래. 뒤들어 참아 태삼지요 가시. 다음은 뭘 가리. 그것도 준비해서 매바이시. 돈담 똥만이 다 강니고래 하고 말이. 지고 뭐라 말이지. 그것도 준비해서 배추 남도 라주 받지네. 뉴모 바 강을 빼는 띠먹을 내코나사나. 들을지와 요래. 준비해서 매바래. 쟤는 들어오니 뭐지그 샘다 뭐지그 샘이 찍발해. 가리 뭐들라 대화 고요리 동이 고요 말이 이나요. 대화 도빠다 동이만 도빠 차당 무슨 도빠 뭐지그 남발시 받아 뭐지그 샘 찍발해. 쟤는 속카카 수치월이. 이거 뭐또 먹을 해서는 들어줘야지. 둘이 흘러봐 매봐라. 돈담도 똥만이래지. 돈담도 똥만이 그래요. 저 곰자선을 띠먹미. 니는 뭐 남도데. 코는 하지 뭐또 손을 잡아주면 또 똥만이 강이 지금도 와. 세상 깨쩍 맞지는. 뭐도 저 똥만이는 저 제주요 말마. 매도 그 사웅데 매그 작성들이 요거 제주요 말마. 그래서 돈담도 똥만이 니 딱딱 내는 용구요래. 내 많이 람만하고 그도 좀 돼서 와매 봐. 뉴모비 레사나 제가 노아를 두래지. 돈담 또만 뉴모바 쪽 파티 쪽으로는 저 뉴모바 또만 땅서나 소소랑 유는 도와 줘 오면. 그래서 냄바니. 돈담 그 네바 똥바니를 봐. 돈담 그 네바 똥바니들 뉴모바 남도 뉴모바 대 뉴모바 들어가는 다 르파크 센소나 똥만이로. 뉴모바 상훈데 똥만이들이 겨면나 되었지 겨면아. 저 똑같이 뭐좀 되는데 봐지. 저렇게 할래요 좀 돼요 말이지. 뉴모바 상소나
And this is connected also with the understanding of the true truth. So this so is important, is so connected with the understanding of the true truth. And so when we talk about the true truth, so there's of the relative truth and the absolute truth. And the true truth are not two separate things, but it is very much so when we say the understanding of the true truth, so that is the understanding of the unity of the true truth. The two truths are so the relative truth and the absolute truth. And the relative is the cause and effect, the undeceiving law of cause and effect. Undeceiving in the sense that whenever the causes and conditions are gathered, then the result will come about. And so this is the understanding, or the relative truth. That is what the relative is. And so that we need to understand, to realize, and that is. The relative is also connected with those thoughts that are given some kind of solidity when the namtok, becomes kind of solid. But then, when we need to realize that also all these, for example, when we see an insect and when we see, for example, ourselves, so human beings, realize that their mind and our mind is not different. It is not different because they need happiness. And they don't want suffering. In that, they are exactly the same, and they're also under the influence of destructive emotions that lead them to experience more suffering and do not lead them to experience happiness. And so, in that, if we realize that also, so at that level, that relative level, so all those phenomena that manifest, for example, when there's a human being on one side, and then for example, an insect on another side, then realize that actually in our mind we're the same. We have this. We all wish to be happy and don't want to be to suffer. And so in this way, then that prevents also the destructive emotions to arise, and for us to do too much of action that would lead us to experience further suffering. But when we don't know, when we don't realize that, then we accumulate actions that lead us to experience more and more suffering in the samsara. And so that is at the relative level. So that is how so things manifest due to those thoughts in themselves that we kind of solidified. And then but at the same time, things are this relative truth is not different from the absolute, not separate from the absolute truth, and the absolute is emptiness. So the relative is this undeceiving law of karma, cause and effect, and the absolute is emptiness. That is, that in their nature things are all devoid of inherent existence. That there is no, and when we realize that, then there is no room for destructive emotions. There is no room for aversion. There is no room for desire. Whenever something arises, then we realize that actually it is emptiness. There is nothing there to grasp at or to be attached to. And so that is, says, the example is of a seed that was burnt. If you burn a seed, then it won't be able to give rise to develop into a flower. Even if you put the water, the manure, and everything, the seed that has been burnt, doesn't have that capacity anymore. And so it is the same then when you realize the view of emptiness, then within that realization, then there's no room, there's no cause for further destructive emotions to arise. Whenever something arises, then we see that it is empty. And so that is why it is said that, sometimes it says that Dzogchen is beyond cause and effect. And saying that it is beyond cause and effect, so people kind of, find that a little bit funny when some followers of Dzogchen then says, oh, Dzogchen is beyond, cause and effect, beyond causality, as if there were something that is beyond causality. But what it means is that whenever, those destructive emotions arises within that space of the absolute truth, of that recognition of the view of emptiness, then they can't act as a cause for further destructive emotions. There's no cause there anymore. There's nothing that is that they can produce anymore.
냠지 흉바다 잘니 희지 욕설지 못도 봐서 차고데 못도 또냠 동서 남그쳤다 나타데 봐 람진 서르냠 그것은 예대지 걸다베 상와다 게바 초기르냠 고쳐다 게바 sakki to leba da 대신지 남지 춘바다 잔니 르모 지나 푸나 이시 공리 차와인데서 내가 유르보 곰나더니 대서부터 냠 제요래 냠 제와데라 힘바 맞지라 내 봐요 말해 얘는 힘바 찌나 이 냠지 춘바 잘 돌고 그래서
In this way, always remind yourself of the view, which is a clear light, recognized in you as your true nature. And as you are resting in that state, you should neither suppress nor indulge, neither accept nor reject in any way the thoughts and emotions that are its dynamic energy. So this is a crucial point, which is, the root text says, rest in the aspect of awareness beyond all description. So this is the same as what we've explained earlier of that we shouldn't suppress any thought nor encourage anyone, and just rest without just resting in the nature of mind without doing anything. And then it says, when you maintain that state for a long time, as a beginner, you will have experiences of bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality, which will mask the face of your true nature. So if you free it from this shell of attachment to experience and lay bare the actual face of Rigpa, then wisdom will shine out from within. So when we practice as beginners, then we'll be experiencing we'll have experiences of bliss, experiences of clarity, experiences of non-conceptuality. And if we're able to recognize those experiences for what they are, then there's no problem. But then if they arise and we do not recognize them, then it is important that we come to actually make sure, look at them and then be able to identify them and to also come to recognize what they are, and do not start to grasp at them. Because if we do not recognize them, then we'll start to grasp at those different experiences, those experiences of bliss or clarity or non-conceptuality.
동서는 남크 쳤다고 상을 당대 봐서 드니 고점을 접근을 내버갔더라 드리다다 레통보 공고서는 봐요 봐 차오 공고서는 봐때 ramyiga dinzabadi samsan ke ramyiga zaba tamche to tawa samsan ramyin yung yore ramyin zaba tawa pena patang so le to gom go san zaba yore tang gom do se 대신 동만 남았다 하람 내 그걸 티더니 도망 많이 삼천 성스람이 상그 요래 될라 근데 동사를 남고 있었다 그래서 동사를 될라 동버랑이라 남카다가 타다 우메가 무서워메가 대사고 하고 요래 오 사버랑 저 하고 요래 대사 동성적 대차를 해서
the non-conceptuality of how the fundamental nature abides and so on must arise. So this empty experience of the non-conceptual essence as a vivid quality like a clear and empty expanse of sky. So it says first, the non-conceptuality of how the fundamental nature abides and so on must arise. So this state of non-conceptuality must arise, must unfold. So basically what happens when we are meditating is that as a beginner we have this thought, we have this of wanting to meditate, this kind of sort of subtle grasping and thinking, well, I should meditate, I have to meditate, have to practice, have to meditate on the empty nature and so on. And when we do that, when we focus in this way, try to rest in this empty state, and this state of the nature of mind, then at some point it just, as we rest there, then naturally it just manifests as this the vivid quality, like a clear and empty expanse of sky, just unfold, just naturally, as this kind of clarity just naturally kind of rises as we are practicing. And so that is the what is meant here, where it says this empty experience of the non-conceptual essence as a vivid quality, like a clear and empty essence of sky. So again, as beginners, when we start practicing, there's this kind of grasping, thinking, oh, I need to practice, I need to rest in that state. But as we do that, then at some point, just naturally, this kind of clarity, this vivid quality of like empty, like the expanse of sky, just unfolds. This is the union of at that point, then we have the union of clarity and emptiness.
ramyin sarve nyam kusar nyedche korta sawa da kepas ramyin sarve nyam de pela semtli never kamni konde gu chu tamje talami saw hakota ba lid는 민지 강은 참아 냠든 통되어라 이 소속도 버 시랍게 강이 뭐 시바라 들이 상화진 즈바랑 네오 사면 또 소소를 빼나 또 매가 상화진 즈바랑 상들이 이 저거 용기들이 요래서 상화가 개봐서
The experience of the cognizant nature is all illuminating, like the mandalas of the sun and moon. And so there is, so in that meditation, when we meditate in this way, just when all the this experience of vivid clarity, just the meditation becomes very vivid, very clear. There's this deep experience of this direct experience of the vividness, the clarity of the nature of mind. That is, all the thoughts, the grasping are released, and we're just in that experience, pure and clear. And so there is basically it says, is this the natural a clarity or the natural kind of releasing of all grasping. And this is one of the quality of the Rigpa. When staying in the Rigpa, just naturally all graspings are just released in that.
tukgiring torcha tangi ba sakki jurdi lepa tan trava de chinji shi sante chin tukgiring torcha tangi ba de zeba grambi me pa me ba zeba de yong yore toni ton zeba ran shukki yong de tel me ke ge zeba me pa me ba zeba me ke ge zeba o dili dungi chi mo ton dili dungi chi mo do sa tel zeba de rāpa tani tamki rāngi ki tsiwa ki tsorwa di simedana yoga mīkwa mīpa tsiwa di sakye di tukji di tsiwa li kogu yore tukji nyam chorcha tangi ba so tsiwa di yale dini di shirab ki tsiwa la tsiwa ka chok tsiwa ki shirab la chok 돈이 더 힘지니 찌로아 대티디 돈이 돈은 힘지라 미게 이거 요래서 제바스
The experience of compassionate Rigpa as an aspect of freedom.
tukgi tsiwa tukgi nyam chorcha tangi padala tukgi tsiwa re tukgi tsiwa chimbi hi tsiwa tukgi tsiwa re chorcha de de namto da nyum ba tangi la ki chor shuk gorwa namto da nyum ka ki chor de na ramji 우볼 좀바되면 배나 hingi rāngsīpa mīli hingi nzibāk ki hingi nzibā mīpa hingi nzibā sāwa mīpa hingi nzibā mīpa mīpa hingi nzibā mīpa chōchā de chōr na nzibā mīpa chōrbā dāng qīngwā nī tōngsā de chōr de na nī na tō kāyān de nzibā na chōrbā sīm rāngwā blā yōre mā chōr na qīng di wō 닌티 메도는 메도에서 남산 청물이 청와도 도마신 돌아하고 말이 청와가 동시는 된 청와 대래지 돌아 대래지 야 메도도 빼야고도 세분들로도 가는 말이 심플로 저 청와 좋아하니 대가가 시골해지
So there is also this aspect of compassion in the experience. When we rest in the Rigpa, there is this experience of compassion. And so the experience of compassionate Rigpa has an aspect of freedom. So to explain, there is when the in the Rigpa when the coming together of the empty essence and the cognizant nature, then there is this aspect of compassion. Compassion is, she explains, the love. So that is, in terms of love, of this loving kindness, this love, this very pure love, there's two ways. There's one with kind of reference, with a point of reference, and there's love without reference point. With reference is like, for example, when you see another being, and then you think, oh, he must be experiencing so much suffering, and I wish I could do something to help, and so on. So this is with the reference is yourself, and then there's this other being who is experiencing suffering, which is the object of your love. And then there is the love without reference point. That is just naturally this loving quality which is present in the nature of the mind, in the Rigpa. Rigpa has naturally that quality of love, of compassion. And so when, as it says, also when we realize compassion, when we realize emptiness, then naturally, so the compassion also rises together with it. And so here this experience of Rigpa so is also full of compassion. There's this aspect of love and compassion very much when we experience the Rigpa in this way in the practice. And it says it has an aspect of freedom. There is this aspect of freedom. That means that the love that we're talking about here is not a love with reference point, but without any reference point. And that is because when resting in the state of Rigpa, there is this aspect of freedom or liberation. Freedom or liberation is opposed to binding, being bound, for example, to the samsara. So there's the freedom and the binding. Freedom is the free from any kind of grasping. That is, whereas binding is, for example, when seeing a flower. You see the flower and you think, oh, what a beautiful flower. Well, that is a binding. There is a grasping at the flower. But then in the case of the freedom, this aspect of liberation, then there is no grasping at the flower. There's no, not this kind of grasping. The mind just rests, at ease and open in that great openness and do not grasp to anything. And so within that state, so there is this aspect of love, and this is not a love so that would be, grasping on a particular object or not, but it's just indwelling naturally there within that state of Rigpa.
Sakje njurdi leba tan trava. Trawe de chinji shisung. Di sakje ge dewa ta sami ge dewa ni sakje ge dewa juna ta tang so. Bena kaji changtong be dewa chimbo de changtong yang dunghe yung yang mo yo re. Taman tin yang be jo taman na mon tin de be ji bo re taman da mo ma tin yang shi ro re. De tam je sakje njurdi de tam bo dewa ni man do dunghe ni yon ro yo re. 대탐제 sakje njurdeja. Pe te tawarge, teni gom jakpakami, necha tso zongto, necha tere dewa chimo yore, nampo tamje ta charsong rang yin sep dewa, tere shen songna tere sakje njurdeja. Sep mani bikablo yang dunghe yungu yore ba, nyumba tamche, tipa chitang tere nyumba tere shok chimbo, kiyo yore de, sakje njurdeja. Teni di sakje jurdi lepa ta trawe di chi ji shi so. Tela ringo yin la puna yishi kongin chawa yin de so. Sakje jurdi ta pi tong ten nini song yo re. Ringo yin la puna yishi kongin charte ta teni necha le shin na. Di necha te mepe kape dungi yung yo re. Yuna diwa yo re. Di diwa de shikko re si. Di diwa de shik na. Teni ringo jin la puna yishi kongin sawa yin de so.
So it is, since it is uncontaminated by changing bliss, it is the wisdom of great bliss. So this experience when resting in the state of Rigpa is, it says, uncontaminated by changing bliss. So the contamination, that refer to the, sometimes we translated also this expression actually as tainted. We have tainted virtue and untainted virtue. And here, likewise, there's a tainted kind of happiness and untainted kind of happiness. And so here says that this contaminated or tainted kind of happiness is not present within the state of Rigpa. So the tainted or contaminated kind of happiness is the one that we have from drinking alcohol, for example, and that is that you drink, and then after you drink, a few glasses, you feel much better than you were before. And or if you smoke, and then you feel that it's absolutely untenable. You really have to do something, and you smoke, and then after that it's much better. But then otherwise, it's really way too painful, and you really have to do something about it, like smoking a cigarette or drinking a few glasses. So this is more the tainted kind of happiness. And or contaminated. So it says contaminated, changing bliss, because it is always changing. It is not a permanent state, but just a very temporary, ephemeral. And so here, this is not present within the state of Rigpa. When resting in that state of Rigpa, all those are not present. And it's just the experience of the primordial wisdom, or the great bliss of primordial wisdom. There's this experience of great bliss, which is different from this limited kind of happiness of, it says, contaminated, changing bliss. And so as the text says, that this is all explaining this sentence in the text that says, if you free it from the shell of attachment to experience, and lay bare the actual face of Rigpa, then wisdom will shine out from within. And so in this way, if you do not grasp at those experiences, but just rest in the Rigpa, then this will have this naked experience of the Rigpa, this experience of the primordial wisdom. And if we are able to rest in that naked state of Rigpa, then there is experience. There is no experience of suffering. If we are not able to rest in that, then we experience all sort of suffering. But if we are able to rest in that, then there is no more suffering. And so, therefore, this is something that is important to know.
Chekeda namjor gomba hikjin zang puchachapo tapjin zang serwa tar yembe na ne de sar to yang hik de yang chatar hik na ne de sar jam je do che de wa che yo de ma je do je pap danor do je do che Gapota Kinongso Pache Dejata, Petem Yamjata, Tetaras Yamta, Nanyamta, Shinyam, Ni, Shinyam la Shipa, Gabdiniam, Tanjardiniam, Ni, Major Santa, the third door dinner. 갑도 지성 제일 삼삼나 오배 샘지보용 거래 오딱 몸전에 삐지보도 순이 토목 많이 비지성도 용 거래 대한 냠을 해야 돼 지금에서 빵왕마 소와 되고 그래야지 삼삼나 배 샘조 땅아 몸적 같이 쓰는 양 용을 편집 이제 다 유모 뭐 이보선 조금도 앞에 가보다 몸적 강요 비싼 말이 쓰는 양 용을 대통이 냠을 냠용 거래. 대통이 나도 ጭ빠 직장을 빠랑 총총 되나? 그러니 대 냠니가 돌린 줄 거래. 대통이는 인자바 쇼핑들이 받치를 줘래. 인자바 쇼는 받치를 줘 그래.
There is a saying. It says, the more its flow is interrupted, the better the water in the mountain stream. The more it is disrupted, the better the meditation of the yogin. So stillness, bliss, and clarity disrupt them again and again. So how to disrupt them? You might ask. Whenever experiences of stillness, bliss, or clarity arise, or feelings of joy, glee, or delight, you must pulverize the shell of your attachment to experience, shattering it as if by a bolt of lightning, with the forceful sound of pet, which is the combination of pa, the syllable of skillful means that concentrate and gathers, and ta, the syllable of prajna, which cuts through. So Basically, in brief, what it says that when meditating, when people meditate, then sometimes they have some incredible experience and they feel so happy. You know, it's just great, and the meditations goes very well, and they're so happy and have this really great time meditating. And just think, oh, I need to rest even more in Rigpa. But you need to realize that this is just a nyam. This is just an experience that arises in the meditation. It's just a sign that you're not resting in the Rigpa at that time. And so what you need to do is to go back to the Rigpa. And likewise also when practicing, what happens, we can have some difficult times, some difficulties, and thinking that, you know, experience some kind of physical pain, or just the environment is difficult, or just thinking, well, you know, I do not progress. I've been, you know, locked up and try to practice for so many weeks now, and nothing happens, and it's just kind of I feel like giving up, you know, the practice altogether. But it is the same. Those are just nyam. Those are just experiences. And so they are just, whether experience of happiness or those kind of experience of suffering, whether physical suffering or mental suffering, whatever they are just namtok arising. And so that is, if you rest in the Rigpa, then they'll be liberated, because they're just they're just the same. They're just namtok, and so the antidote for those is the Rigpa. So by just resting in the Rigpa, all those namtok will be liberated, and so that is what we need to do. You know, whenever experiences arise, just to come back to the Rigpa and liberate. And in that state of Rigpa, so those thoughts, those nyam, those experiences will be liberated. Otherwise, if we do not do that and start to relate to those experiences more, then they will be creating obstacles for us.
동의를 medima 대독 초와 강기는 변은 과연 네가 메라 대화를 medima 동의를 medima 대 먼저는 하면서 먼저로 삼았다 아서 직디는 대비 냠이 등이 제샤 공사에 지금도 대 직디는 대비 냠이 제샤 지금도 대인은 다다 냠 가리나 냠대 냠상이 이는 돌드나 냠상보이나 디 패장을 떠오는 것감이 냠대 돌디요 말이고 라사 네트고요래 냠 먼저부터 알나 되니 라사 네로래 냠 대냠 다다디 sakye judege nyam te tamsi phajdan thodolore pena majorbe nyamte toya yoma te junchi me ba ro sanyam te na ro nyam na te la joto yoma re hinda nyam ta bi na jra yore jiktin de pe nyam ni sun de jiktin de pe nyam te pe na Patrul majorbe sang ta de ma da the sawom do bong ta re donna te da nyam kang chana chardo che duji thap ji phadan tuji shirab ji tra nin de we phidda ta ko thoro ma ta we dan kha da phidde nam rama da donna de bang ne simran zaba shok zaba ram de shok na hin na 심하다 봐야 나서 팩 잡는 돌이잖아. 되니 먼저 그거는 돌이요 말이 코로나 속에 내기리 남 돌돌이. 근데 송그리 냠 나은자데 야nen도 오세. 그거 남칸도 보절미도 그거 뭐지라 팩잡 가르치는 포절 따는 거야 요 말이지 냠이 놓고 막상 또또 그래 뒤치 빨리 그거 남칸다데 포절매
So there are obstacles, the signs of the Mara, and signs of fluctuating experience. There are visionary experience and mind experiences. Within mind experiences, there are joyful, happy experiences and conclusive experiences. There are also unchanging secret signs and mundane and supermundane experiences. So he says that when we're practicing, we have all those different kinds of experience that arise, experience of bliss, stillness, clarity, or feeling of joy, and so on. And those, so as was said, if we cling to those, then they will become they will turn into obstacles. They are the signs of Maras and will become obstacles. And there are experiences that we have in visions, and there are mind experiences. And within the experiences of the mind, that there are those secret and changing signs. And so those are experiences that we have in the practice, but that are related to the Rigpa. And those are the pure experiences. They can be experiences of bliss and so on, but which are inherent to the Rigpa. And so usually the experiences, those experiences that are contaminated types of experience, then the normal kind of experiences, when we say pet, then they are just destroyed, they are eliminated. But then when those experiences, those uncontaminated experiences, this what's called this unchanging secret signs, are just, even if you say pet, they won't change, they'll stay the same. And so that is because the Rigpa do not change. They are the experiences of the Rigpa, and the Rigpa do not change. And so it says you must break the shell of your attachment to experience, shattering it as if by a bolt of lightning with the forceful sound of pet. So this the syllable pet that you utter in order to destroy those experiences. So whenever there is experience of stillness, of bliss, or clarity that arise, and instead of grasping at those experiences, we need to utter this forceful sound of pet in order to break the experience and to liberate this. And so that is the way that we are able to liberate those experiences when they manifest, when they appear in our meditation. But again, there is also those kind of experiences that are related to the Rigpa, that are the direct experiences of the Rigpa, the so-called unchanging secret signs. And when those manifest, that even if you say pet, then you won't be able to destroy, to eliminate those those experiences. For example, if you have a kind of experience of bliss in that in connection to that, which is like one of those unchanging secret signs, and even if you say pet, it will still be there. And the example that is given in order to illustrate that is of the mist and the sky. Like in the morning, you can have mist, and then slowly it will vanish. So this is a little bit more like those ordinary kind of experiences, and whereas those the Rigpa is like the sky, and that will not ever vanish.
Labda Lidia Namjur Mega Tatang Haga Juba E. Gomlo Shipa Namji Yam Shikla Yam To Se Yam Jinji Shumpa Taki Torgude Tapsi Yege Robert Bebso and Dila De Lidia Namjur Mega Tatang Haga Juba the tamche pachel di 가자 카시를 마도 사만디 냠제요 가자 카시 되니 무충충 곰쯤이 쳔보 드니 그랬더니 냠나 신바 이거는 제송들이 식하고 신도 매와 되게 용어래. 냠 대사마도 냠 신도 매와 냠 희망이 거라. 뒤가 미식을 다 가는 데. 파이 얘들이 파이 잡아자. 들 그렇지. 하하지. 들이들이 막 따당 티가르다. 나파르다. 팔시. 노들이 곰 미소라고 자. 곰 참자. 들이 삭발 말을 뭐 쪼서 뭐곰 여보 여래. 뭐 디培养 작교를 이제 쪼더니 디 대서 고사자 오래들 저 뭐야 소리 뭐 라마나 오 라마 트레이닝 되나 강인한테 곰신이 곰발라더니 고사나 받치대서 연구를 해서 공부촉장에 뭐 집을 곰자니는 노사자는 매세 받치 매세 대담아 가까르라 진짜 곰신이나 양 고사요 뭐 곰나더니 고사 매세 내도 고사지 뭐 오는 거 말이지 라마는 뭐 집을지구나 네 고사도 싸우는 거 말이야 태동지가 대 용능에서는 태동지니 말이지 태동지는 라마지 뭐 곰지
We must distinguish between experience and realization and transcend that distinction. With physical posture, gaze, verbal expression, and the attitude of cutting through the mind of meditation, we destroy the experience. So, there is... so when we practice, so we destroy, as was explained, we destroy the experiences that arise because they can be misleading or they can create obstacles. But actually those are more for kind of an individual who don't have such a strong devotion, but have a strong, discipline and very diligent in their meditative practice, but they don't have such a strong devotion. And then the kind of pitfalls on the path can arise in the meditation. Kind of we can take some mistaken path, and so we need to do something when experiences arise, and then saying pet or moving our body or kind of freshen up and in this way. But then it is said that if we have really pure devotion, strong and pure devotion for the master, then there's no pitfall on the path. There is this, confidence. There's not the slightest doubt, because all those come also when we start to have a doubt and question. But then when we have this one-pointed faith and devotion in the master, then there is no pitfall then, and the. So that is why the key point is very much the devotion in the master, because then even if you do all those things, if you say pet, hundreds of times, if you kind of shake your body, freshen up, but you don't have the devotion, it is not going to work. The key for eliminating all the obstacles to the and to avoid any pitfall in our practice is the devotion. So it is important to very much cultivate that and to really develop that. And this should come also for us in our mind whenever there's difficulty. We bring the thought of the master to mind. And so again, just saying pet alone will not destroy or will not enable us to avoid the pitfall in the path.